How about hurdling? Been known to do a little some of that.
The one against Maryland, that was probably one of my first hurdles, or like the second one I ever had that. Was kind of predetermined. Usually it's just a straight up reaction, just like a feel for the game, and the guy goes down and for some reason I go up.
This guy has to be in the MVP conversation. He is this year's McCaffrey.
I don't know, man. Some guys are blessed.
Saquon Barkley is on pace to have a career season in 2024, in a renaissance that few saw coming. Ever since joining the Eagles, Barkley has looked more comfortable and confident than ever, back to his tantalizing best, churning out jaw-dropping plays week after week. And I mean, coming off a treacherous end to a 6-year stint with the Giants, which was meant to be his forever home, Saquon Barkley is aiming to marry his generational talent to a title for the first time in his career, and is ready to prove any doubters wrong. But not many people know the true story of Saquon Barkley, from almost being homeless in New York to the 4th all-time leading rusher in Giants history, now set to compete for a Lombardi trophy with the Eagles. This is the story of Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was born in the Bronx in New York to Alabay Barkley and Tanya Johnson. His uncle, Iran Barkley, had been a world championship boxer at middleweight, inspiring Alabay to follow in his footsteps. Athletics ran deep in this family's bloodline, but his father got mixed in with the wrong crowd and was sent to serve a year in prison on Rikers Island for gun charges at the age of only 19. Alabay then began to use drugs very heavily, and for the first years of Saquon's life, really did struggle to remain sober, not only wasting his own athletic talent, but more importantly, jeopardizing the well-being of his family. During this time, Barkley was introduced to football, with his father being a devoted Jets fan. Saquon quickly took a liking to the game by the age of 4, promising his parents he would make it to the NFL and buy them a house. Their reality in the early 2000s seemed far from it, as the Barkleys continued to struggle to stay afloat, becoming homeless for 8 months while Saquon was in elementary school.
Saquon was about maybe 7, 8, we experienced homelessness. Financially, we got into a little rut and we got kicked out, to just put it simple.
It was devastating. It was like, there was no explanation.
We was a family of 7, you know, so it's like, what are we gonna do?
They sent the children to live with distant relatives about 100 miles west in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania as a result.
Thank God we had some people around us that was willing to help.
I remember just staying with family and friends. I know how help had an impact on our family and got us back on our feet. And sometimes that's all you need. Being homeless helped me to be a better football player, be a better man, and just have a different appreciation of life.
Their mother, Tanya Johnson, went with the children in the hopes of giving them a safer place to grow up, while Alabay followed shortly after, leaving behind a fraught relationship he had developed with his native New York.
At one point, was a functionable drug addict, and was making a lot of wrong decisions in his life. And my mom kind of saved him. My mom kind of gave him the decision: it's either you're coming with me or you're not. So us kind of moving to Pennsylvania and getting away from that area and getting away from that bad environment, I guess you can say, that my father was put in, helped save him. You never know where my father would be, if he would be alive, if he would continue to make the decisions he would make.
From the age of 6 onward, Saquon lived in the Lehigh Valley region of eastern Pennsylvania, showing significant promise across multiple sports. And growing up, he absolutely loved football. But at the same time, he had also lived up to the expectations of boxing that his father had or had hoped for also. You see, Alabay had begun to turn his life around on the other side of Delaware, using his story and experience to impress upon his children that they should never make the same mistakes in life that he had.
The way that I've learned from my father is the mistakes that he made, and I'm a fool if I follow his footsteps.
He consequently pushed them to excel in every area for Saquon that largely came in the form of athletics. He told the Players Tribune of one sparring match he had at the age of 10 where he was dominating his opponent until the later round, when Saquon began to run out of steam and was ultimately shaken at sight of a far better trained and harder working fighter. And I mean, at the time too, this proved to a young Saquon that even with all of his athletic gifts, absolutely nothing could beat work ethic and strong preparation. That fight fight also did one other thing and kind of revealed the fact that Saquon didn't want to dedicate all his time to that sport. Instead, Saquon decided that his calling was football. He had already been turning heads in Coplay, Pennsylvania due to his striking physicality for his age.
I knew it when he knocked that dude over in the first play when he played Pee Wee. The first game, he scored like 3 touchdowns within like a quarter and a half. It was effortless. So right there, I knew.
Saquon also participated in basketball and track, but reaching the NFL remained his dream. Saquon was a backup for their senior running back and therefore barely saw any time in his preferred position with the ball in his hands. Instead, he was forced out to linebacker.
He's a talented running back. What kind of yards does he have? And the answer I get is
he's a backup to the senior who was doing well.
Outstanding coaching. Kid's going to be the #1 pick of the NFL draft down the road, and you haven't played an outside backer.
He said, Dad, I don't want to do it no more. And I said, what you don't want to do no more? He said, football. I said, football? Why are you going to let somebody take you out your space? You know, he was like, 1 more year. I was like, no, you're going to finish. You know,
and that's when he started telling him, once you quit one thing, you're going to always quit.
He did return in his sophomore year and began producing as a runner, tallying 284 rushing yards and 5 total scores as a sophomore to win a league title. Saquon was beginning to receive D1 offers and eventually committed to Rutgers the fall of his junior year. Barkley absolutely blew up in 2013, rushing for 1,506 yards and 27 touchdowns, which saw even more buzz starting to get directed towards him, leading to offers from Pitt and Penn State. He promptly flipped his commitment from Rutgers to the Nittany Lions, and in his final year of high school rushed for 1,856 yards, 8.6 yards per carry, and 31 touchdowns, earning him first-team All-State honors to go along with the title of Mr. PA football. Oh, and did I also mention that he won the 100-meter state championship in track and field also? Like, the dude was absolutely evolving into an absolute unit. Saquon became Pennsylvania's top-ranked recruit in the class of 2015 and the 9th best running back in the nation according to 24/7 Sports. The push to stick with football from his parents had paid off as Saquon enrolled at Penn State University in January of 2015. And I mean, his talent was impossible to contain that fall as he had 182 rushing attempts, totaling over 1,000 yards, a freshman record, and 7 touchdowns on the 2015 season, along with 20 receptions in the passing game. The freshman All-American and second-team All-Big Ten honors couldn't have gone to a more deserving player who at 18 was completely bodying college defenders with an agility that betrayed the unstoppable power which he ran with.
Direct snap to Barkley, looking for the edge, diving into the end zone.
Defender loses a shoe, it doesn't matter. It's just bringing him down from trying to get that height.
Like, I mean, Saquon wasn't intimidated by the occasion whatsoever, running for 194 yards in Columbus against the Buckeyes, who were only 5 games into their national championship defense. And I mean, straight up, Barkley's meteoric rise just gave everybody some of the most electrifying moments that we would ever see, especially in his sophomore campaign. His role in the receiving game improved drastically with Trace McSorley under center in an offense which included the likes of Chris Godwin and Mike Gesicki taking a huge leap forward in 2016. Saquon managed a career-high 5 total touchdowns in a loss against Pitt, which left the Nittany Lions unranked for the early part of the season. He finally caught fire against Maryland Week 7, rushing for over 200 yards just before a showdown against the #2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. Barkley went on to average 8.3 yards per carry in a massive 24-21 upset win, a turning point in the Penn State season.
Inside of 40, this is from 45 and it's blocked. Lions scoop it up. Brad Haley will score.
From that point on, they went undefeated through the Big Ten into the championship game, downing a TJ Watt-led Wisconsin team 38-31, setting up a Rose Bowl clash against the USC Trojans.
He's a beast. I mean, he can do everything. Running, whoop, passing, touchdown. Barkley. That's not improvisation. That's planned all the way. But Saquon gets in the end zone as a receiver.
And in what proved to be an epic back-and-forth battle, Barkley ran in 2 scores, with the second a core memory for Penn State fans that they will never forget.
Barkley trying to bounce it. And does escape. Saquon Barkley in the clear. Still going. Saquon Barkley all the way to the end zone.
Barkley would then go on to catch one more touchdown, and although the Nittany Lions lost to a last-second field goal, their number 26 had just put on an absolute show on the national stage, garnering even more attention as to what was going on in what was surely going to be his last season of college football. Barkley finished 2016 just shy of 1,500 rushing yards to go with over 400 receiving and a Big Ten best 22 total touchdowns. He earned conference MVP honors with a second-team All-American nod in an 11-3 season in College Park, and by all means, the only way seemed up for Saquon. And I mean, up he went in the 2017 season as Penn State clinched another 11-win season. And during that season too, his versatility was on more display than it had ever been. He had 632 receiving yards for 3 touchdowns to go with 1,271 yards on the ground for 8 scores. Oh, and I mean, that's not even to mention his use on kick returns too, 2 of which he brought back to the house on an average of 28.4 yards per return, rightfully earning him the Paul Hornung Award.
Wearing their alternate jerseys with their LeBron James cleats. And back deep, the dangerous one, Saquon Barkley. State Penn State, and we're underway from Columbus. Barkley from inside his own 5. Barkley with a lead. Barkley with a burst. Barkley down the sideline. Saquon Barkley runs the opening kick. 97 yards. Touchdown, Nittany Lions.
To cap off an excellent college career, Barkley finally got his first bowl win against Washington, where he ran for 137 yards and 2 scores before declaring for the 2018 NFL Draft, finishing 4th in Heisman voting as a consensus All-American. But now the question remained, after putting up 3 epic years in College Park, would his skills transfer over to the NFL? You see, Saquon Barkley was considered the best overall prospect going into the 2018 draft, and his combine performance left absolutely no room for doubt.
I think it's probably the most dynamic weapon in all of college football.
He proceeded to lead all running backs in bench press and vertical jump while running a 4.40 second 40-yard dash, second best in his position group. I mean, the dude looked incredibly smooth in the pass catching and running back drills and was considered effectively a can't miss prospect. I mean, some people were even comparing him to the great Barry Sanders. And as crazy as it sounds too, Barkley would then get to celebrate the birth of his first child just 2 days before the draft. And he's even said it himself that it's a milestone that has changed his life forever.
Having a daughter definitely changes the way that you look at your future and how you think. As a father, it is an exciting thing to watch your child grow. I'm very excited for who my daughter will become. Whether she want to play soccer, she want to do something with school, she want to be the first woman president, she could be the first woman president. The actions that I do now and I continue to do throughout my life, it's going to help impact her. I want to be one of those people that a parent could be like, you know, this guy was one of those guys who did it in the right way.
The Browns selected Baker Mayfield first overall in desperate need of a quarterback, and as a result, the Giants simply could not pass Barkley's talents up at pick number 2.
With the second pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, New York Giants select Saquon Barkley, running back, Penn State.
It was a return back to New York, now as the second overall pick in the draft, and was a fantastic full circle moment for the back, even though Saquon wasn't in the colors his family would have preferred to see him in.
I'm sure your dad's a Jet fan.
Yes, I mean, such a Jets fan that he has a Jets tattoo right here.
Oh my gosh.
But in his debut against the Jags, it was a sign of things to come for their new number 26. Saquon ran tough the entire game, even hurdling a man on one of the best defenses in the league before breaking out for a 68-yard touchdown run, shrugging off tackles with ease, somehow exceeding the lofty expectations lumped on him before the season had even kicked off. Barkley continued to put together remarkable games in a weak Giants team who ultimately finished the season 5-11, 2 wins ahead of where they were in 2017. Saquon led the league with 2,028 yards from scrimmage, 1,307 on the ground, 721 through the air, for a total of 15 touchdowns, earning him his first Pro Bowl selection in the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. He still to this day holds the record for most receptions by a rookie running back with 91, not fumbling the ball a single time, proving to be a bright spot in a dark time for Giants fans, appearing to live up to the generational hype that he had received since his sophomore year of college. In 2019, full of changes in New York, where Daniel Jones took over quarterback duties from Eli Manning, Saquon Barkley's production remained consistent despite a high ankle sprain early in the season, which kept him out of action for 3 weeks. Barkley finished with over 1,000 rushing yards for a second consecutive season, the only player in franchise history to do so, though inconsistent quarterback play hurt his receiving numbers significantly and saw his total touchdowns drop to 8. He later then did reveal that the ankle injury was nagging him pretty much for the entire season, and that the 2020 season was going to be one of his all-time bests. Little did Saquon know, though, that his career was going to take an absolute nosedive just 2 weeks in. In the 2020 season opener against Pittsburgh, Saquon averaged a career-low 0.4 rushing yards per attempt while picking up 60 receiving yards in a 26-16 loss. And now looking to bounce back on a week 2 trip to Chicago, Barkley would take a handoff to start the second quarter, but then disaster would strike.
At the end of this run, right there, going out of bounds with a little extra push, Barkley down and in pain immediately.
Saquon has said that the days and weeks that followed were some of the darkest of his life, helplessly frustrated at the misfortune that had befallen before him, just as he was poised to establish himself as one of the league's best running backs.
There's those days that, you might be down a little bit, but you can't let those days impact you. Those days you might feel down. It's kind of like competing with yourself. Your body is challenging yourself, and it's who you're going to be in that day, who you're going to be in that moment. And I think that applies to not just only in football, but also in life.
And during his recovery, it was one of those lessons that he had learned during his youth that he would have to go back and remember. He remembered the boxing match when he was 10 years old. He remembered how his parents pushed him to not quit because, in the cruelest way possible, his talent couldn't save him this time either. The Giants still had faith in him, though, activating his 5th-year option as he worked tirelessly to get back for the field in week 1. But, Saquon just didn't quite look like himself through the first 5 games, with yet another ankle injury keeping him out of action for 4 weeks. Upon his return, Barkley still looked hesitant to make any signature quick cuts, worryingly not the same player that he had been before the ACL tear. And yes, by all means, he was still running behind one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and then not to mention when you also have Daniel Jones as your quarterback, it doesn't make things much better. But his 856 total yards from scrimmage along with 4 touchdowns were kind of worrying, and many people were worrying that he was going to start regressing. As we all know, ACL injuries are one of the toughest injuries to come back from. So it was understandable, but tragic nonetheless. Everybody was really thinking, had the game lost just another star too soon to see them become great? But then in 2022, Saquon proved everybody wrong. He defied the odds in 2022 and put up career best on a very much improved Giants team. An opening day performance against the Titans ended with 194 total yards and a score for Barkley.
Shovel! Barkley breaks a tackle, dives in for 2! Wow!
With things only headed up from there. Under new head coach Brian Daboll, New York finished 9-7-1, Saquon's first winning season in the NFL. He more than contributed with 1,312 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, and a career high in touches with 352. He got his second Pro Bowl invitation and even finished 3rd in Comeback Player of the Year voting, behind only Geno Smith and Christian McCaffrey. He showed out in the first playoff appearance against the Vikings, rushing for 2 touchdowns while totaling 109 yards on the day to down the NFC's 3 seed 31-24. The Giants couldn't work out the same magic against the Eagles in the divisional round, suffering a crushing 38-7 loss. And that honestly seemed to weigh on them coming into the 2023 season. Combined with the misfortune of just injuries and having to start 3 different quarterbacks throughout the entire year, the Giants' offense in 2023 just kind of became nothing. They really weren't that great. Barkley only managed over 100 rushing yards on 1 occasion, once again suffering an ankle injury, which kept him out 3 games while playing on a franchise tag. Another 10 touchdown season was a positive, but Barkley went into the 2024 offseason weighed down by the uncertainty. He had long been vocal about remaining a Giant for life, but would have a hard time convincing the front office to pay him what he deserved in an especially cruel running back market. So they let their all-time leader in rushing yards per game walk, which was a bad sign for one of the very few bright spots of this franchise.
Former Giants running back Saquon Barkley has reached an agreement with the Philadelphia Eagles. $37.75 million contract that could be worth up to $46.75, 26 fully guaranteed at signing per sources, says Adam Schefter.
And as we all know, Saquon stuck to the script, but when the New York front office saw the kind of money being thrown around him, they didn't even bother to make an offer. Effectively flying in the face of their previous argument, they had told his agent they had no intention to negotiate. As Barkley himself would even say,
I was going to hit the open market and not really get what I want, and probably come back crawling. And my agent killed it. And he told me, don't worry, like, I got you. Just put your trust in me. And I just sat back and just stood quiet, and he went out there and went to work for me and, got me the deal that I have.
And that was one of those down and find out moments.
John Mara, who had been president and CEO of the franchise since 2005, reacted as most Giants fans did also.
Which I don't know if I'll make a couple of calls. I don't even know if that's gonna happen, but
I'm gonna have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. I'll tell you that. As I've told you, just being honest. I've been around enough players, so but he's the most popular player we have by far.
So far, I mean, it's appeared to be a match made in heaven as Barkley has enjoyed one of the finest starts to a season in his career. Behind one of the strongest offensive lines in the league, he ran for 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards while catching another score in his debut 34-29 win over the Packers. His first game at the Link didn't quite go as planned as he dropped the game-sealing pass, which eventually allowed the Falcons to win on a late scoring drive. But as we've all seen from Saquon, he managed to bounce back from that. He now has 1,149 yards from scrimmage through 10 weeks, helping the Eagles stay atop the NFC West in pole position to challenge for a Lombardi for the first time in his career. I mean, hell, he's even thrown a backward hurdle into his repertoire. Like, this guy is just out there toying with defenders at this point and still stunning the crowd with his endless talent. One moment from this season above all that epitomizes his character, though, was upon his return to MetLife when he was booed whenever he touched the ball, a frostier reception than he had anticipated given how things did go down. But after running for 176 yards and a score against his former team, a perfect opportunity for revenge presented itself.
You're 13 yards away from your career high. I would love for you to get that, but that's up to you. I just don't want, I'm going to take out all the starters if they don't score.
You good? Let them eat.
You sure?
Yeah, good. I promise.
I'll listen to me. I want you to do it if you want to do it.
It's all good. I'd rather see the young boys eat.
Like, that selflessness and leadership forged through his humble upbringing helped him rise to the top of every level he's competed at and is what makes Saquon Barkley truly great. On talent and athletic gifts alone, he could legitimately be a top 10 running back of all time. But his work ethic and ability to break off a highlight reel play at any given moment makes him one of the most exciting and inspiring players to watch in the NFL. And if you want to see a video of NFL wide receivers primes that everybody has taken for granted, then click this video right here.